Hey everyone, this is John Gravino from newwalden.org. Welcome to our new podcast show called The Dial. And the title of our first episode is The Conservative Case for Sanctuary Cities, Wink, Wink. And you may have noticed that September has been a very busy month for Joe Biden and the Department of Justice. On September 1st, he gave his speech warning us all that 75 million Trump voters, myself included, are a dangerous threat to democracy. And I thought I would explore in this podcast exactly who these dangerous threats are. Well, I'm one of those Trump voters. Another question we need to ask ourselves is, what makes these people exactly so dangerous? So let's start off by meeting some of them. This happened just last week. Mark Houck was arrested by 30 FBI agents, according to a LifeSite News report. And so who is Mark Houck? He must be some dangerous drug trafficker or involved in organized crime or something. Actually, Mark Houck is a young father of 7 children, and he runs a Catholic ministry that helps men cultivate virtue to become better dads and husbands, and he helps men to overcome porn addiction. He also happens to be a pro-life activist. He prays in front of abortion clinics, and apparently this is what got him into trouble with the Department of Justice. So apparently a couple of years ago, Mark was out in front of an abortion clinic praying his rosary as he does every week, and this time he had his 12-year-old son accompany him. Well, alongside Mark and his 12-year-old son was an abortion activist who started heckling Mark and his son. The man became belligerent, and he started getting aggressive and got too close to Mark's 12-year-old boy, and so Mark pushed him away, and in doing that, the abortion activist fell over. Now, it turns out he was not injured, but he decided to file a lawsuit. The judge, hearing the case, threw out the lawsuit, obviously deciding that there was no merit to the case. But this, amazingly, is the basis for an arrest conducted by 30 FBI agents, which, according to the report, surrounded Mark's house with his wife and 7 young children inside the house. The FBI agents had their rifles and guns drawn. Seems like a bit much for just a young pro-life activist. Nevertheless, clearly, in the eyes of the Department of Justice under Joe Biden, Mark Houck is a dangerous threat to democracy. He's not the only threat to democracy. You may have heard a story just very recently, earlier this summer, where parents were showing up to school board meetings to complain, of all things, about their kids being exposed to porn in schools. Can you believe it? Well, these parents found out about this horrible stuff showing up in their kids' classrooms, and they were understandably very upset and angry about this, and they took their anger to their local school boards and complained. Well, the school boards didn't like that very much, and so apparently, I didn't realize this, but school boards have a national union, and the national union wrote a letter and sent it off to the White House, asking the White House to do something about these troublesome parents. In fact, in their letter to the White House, they went so far as to label these concerned parents domestic terrorists. So what happened? Well, Merrick Garland got on the case and instructed the FBI to look into these dangerous threats. So, and if you want to know more about this story, I have an article on it at my website, newwalden.org. But there's another interesting twist to this. And I want to mention Dan Bongino for a moment. He is a best-selling author and journalist, former Secret Service agent. He just landed a very important exclusive interview with an FBI agent whistleblower. It's a two-part, lengthy interview, but I definitely recommend that you see this. In the interview, the FBI agent explains how when the FBI received this letter that they were supposed to start investigating parents who show up to school boards angry about their kids being exposed to pornography, that he, along with a number of other agents, complained that this was not their job. It was not their job to investigate and harass parents who are rightfully concerned about terrible things going on in their schools. The whistleblower explains that because of this, he got into trouble with his superiors and was eventually fired by the FBI. But very important revelation by this whistleblower is that he's not alone, that there were a number of FBI agents that have become concerned about the activities that they're being asked to undertake on behalf of Biden's Department of Justice. Now, back to Mark Houck, the young man who was arrested just last week for the crime of praying the rosary in front of an abortion clinic. His wife was interviewed by LifeSite News, and she corroborates the FBI whistleblower story, and that's the reason why I just thought it was the timing of this was amazing. I'm going to quote to you from the LifeSite report. This is a direct quote from Mark's wife. So let me read this to you. So Mark's wife says, and I quote, "After they had taken Mark and the kids were all screaming that he was their best friend, the FBI agents on the porch kind of softened a bit. I think they realized what was happening, or maybe they actually looked at the warrant," Ryan Marie explained. "They looked pretty ashamed at what had just happened." So the exact same description of how the FBI is feeling about these assignments they're getting from Merrick Garland and President Joe Biden. But this is all very important because it sheds a great deal of light on Joe Biden's September 1st speech. Now we know who the Biden administration thinks is a threat. Mark Houck is a threat, the Catholic pro-life father of 7. Parents who don't want their children exposed to pornography in schools. These people are a threat to democracy. And let's not forget about the January 6th insurrectionists. Who are they? Well, one of them happens to be a 69-year-old grandma and cancer patient, Pam Hemphill. She was convinced by her attorney that if she set aside her constitutional right to a trial, and she pled guilty, that she would be able to avoid jail time. But that was not the case. She actually was sentenced to jail for attending a Donald Trump rally and wandering into the Capitol building. Obviously, the 69-year-old grandmother had planned to murder Mike Pence with her bare hands and overthrow the government. This summer has been quite a revelation, and what it reveals is that conservatives and Christians need protection from the political persecution that is taking place right now under Joseph Biden. Now the question is, how are we going to get this kind of protection? The answer is sanctuary cities. I have a tweet here from D.C. Council member Brianne K. Nadeau, a Democrat, and she describes for us what exactly it means to be a sanctuary city. So let me read this tweet to you. She says, the District of Columbia is a sanctuary city, which means our law enforcement does not cooperate with ICE. Okay. Oh, I just lost the tweet. Okay. Okay, here we are. Does not cooperate with ICE. As council member, I have called for the abolition of ICE. So that gives us a little bit of an idea what the powers of a sanctuary city are. Now, we learned from California that whole states can become sanctuaries too. California has just passed legislation to make the entire state a sanctuary for trans youth. And we need to do a whole show just on that alone. It's just absolutely frightening what the implications for that are. Let's get back to the good Democrat and councilwoman who is describing to us what a sanctuary city does. Now, we can also, so as I said, sanctuary cities don't cooperate with ICE. Okay, well, ICE is a federal agency. So if sanctuaries don't cooperate with federal agencies, that would mean that red states need not cooperate with federal agencies either. Now, gee, can I think of any federal agencies like, like the IRS, for example, especially a militarized IRS? Or how about the FBI? It seems that if Democrat sanctuary cities and states need not cooperate with federal agencies, then red states don't have to cooperate with federal agencies as well. Maybe that even includes the Department of Justice. She also said in her tweet that sanctuaries can abolish, or she wants to abolish ICE in her city. So I guess that means that red states applying this principle can abolish the IRS and the FBI. I guess that means they can kick them out of their red states. Maybe we ought to try that. The other thing that sanctuaries do is that they shield illegal immigrants from prosecution. Well, I say it's time to shield Donald Trump and his family and his associates from the never-ending impeachments and investigations. Let's face it, Donald Trump didn't collude with Russia to fix an election, okay? That's fake news. That's defamatory propaganda. Donald Trump is like so many other innocent people who've been falsely accused by the Democrats. He's like Nick Salmon in that way. Nick Salmon isn't a racist, or Mark Houck, not a criminal. And what about those parents who showed up to complain at school boards about pornography showing up in their kids' classrooms? I'm sorry, they're not domestic terrorists. And what about that 69-year-old grandma with cancer who got sent to jail by the very same Democrats who release violent criminals from jail every day? I have news for you. She's not an insurrectionist. It's time for us to face a very uncomfortable truth, and that is we have political prisoners in America. I never thought that such a horrific thing could ever come true in our great country. This is such an important topic, and I'm not finished discussing it, although we've run out of time today. Next time, I want to talk about this very important book by Eric Metaxas. It just came out. It's called Letter to the American Church, and it's all about the grave situation we find ourselves in today. It's a message to our churches to wake up and to break their silence and to speak out against all the terrible things that are happening in our country now. Please don't forget to come back and visit us at newwalden.org, and I will see you next time.